Movie buffs, welcome back to the Movie Bay. This is Day, and in today's video, we're going to take a look at all my movies from Denzel Washington, which is 32. I have 32 titles from Denzel Washington. As of the making of this video, I got the Equalizer 3 coming. It's not here yet, but Denzel is next on my list, and I didn't want to skip him. So again, we'll probably come back and do this series again next year because, we're constantly adding. So these type of series can be like a once-a-year type of deal to see how each filmography have progressed over the last year. So without further ado, let's dive in and take a look at 32 great films from Denzel Washington, starting with Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe starring in American Gangster. This is a fantastic movie. I dug it. Based on a true story, Frank Lucas. This man was recorded at one point in time as to making $1 million a day off of his drugs. $1 million a day. And I'm not mistaken, I think this took place back in the 70s or early 80s, but I do believe it was like the 70s. Based off of the cars and stuff in the movie, I would say it was like the 70s. We got Derek, Luke, and Denzel Washington in Antoine Fisher. We also have Denzel Washington, Angelina Jolie, and The Bone Collector. This is one of my favorite Denzel movies. I really, really like this. Fun fact, Denzel Washington turned down the role of Mills in Seven. So he turned down the role of Mills in Seven. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was to make this. I got to go back and take a look at what movie he dropped it for and what he did right after. I think this came after, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I'll check it out. I'm just looking for the year here. But anyway, he turned down the role of Mills. He didn't like the script. He thought it was too dark, but then he turned around and did this. Go figure. I'm not sure if this came before 7 or after. Let me see. Since I got his filmography up on my screen here, I will take a look at what year this movie came out. So this came out in 99, so this definitely came after 7, which was 97. So he could have turned that role down for this. It's possible. Courage Under Fire. This is a banger. This is a good Denzel movie. A little bit different. Not a whole lot of action going on. This is more of a crime thriller, like who trying to get down to the bottom of a murder investigation in the military. So that always adds a different dynamic. And this is not only one of my favorite Denzel movies, this is one of my favorite Gene Hackman movies, and this is one of the favorite movies in my collection, period. Denzel Washington, Gene Hackman, James Gandolfini, Viggo Mortensen, a whole host of others. A lot of those actors that was in this movie as secondary characters, they all went on to became and had pretty decent careers. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Crimson Tide. This is about a mutiny aboard a USS nuclear submarine. Fantastic movie. Okay, Denzel Washington, Val Kilmer, Deja Vu. This movie was alright. I mean, again, it was a good movie, but this isn't one of Denzel's most popular movies. And you know what? When you got a large enough filmography, they're all not going to be memorable. Don't mean they're not good. Here's one I think is underrated. A very good Denzel movie. When I say underrated, I don't know if this one is underrated because everybody talks about this movie when we talk about decent horror. Denzel Washington, again, James Gandolfini, a young James Gandolfini, he had a small part. And John Goodman, Fallen. This is a supernatural thriller. A supernatural thriller. Denzel Washington, Annette Bening, Tony Shalhoub, Bruce Willis, The Siege. This is a banger. I'm not going to say this is one of my favorite Denzels, but if my favorite Denzel movies are A tier, this is my favorite Denzel movie, B tier. Denzel Washington, Liv Schreiber, Meryl Streep, the remake to The Manchurian Candidate. I thought this movie was solid. I dug it. This is a strong B-tier movie. So you got Denzel Washington. Let's see here. Sanaa Lathan and a great cast in this movie. Out of Time. Is that? I think that is. No, wait a minute. That's not Sinai Nathan. Hold on. That is, I don't, yeah, that is Sinai Lathan. Okay, yeah. Denzel Washington and Sinai Lathan, Out of Time. This movie's a banger. This movie is like a couple other movies popping in my mind when I think about this movie. And one that pops in my head is the movie that Paul Walker did called Running Scared, where you what's going on, he's always one step, just barely one step ahead of what's going on to get him caught up in a lot of trouble. I mean, just barely one step ahead. He's staying ahead by dental floss. That's how thin the margin of him staying just a little bit ahead of getting caught up in something crazy. He's really behind, but he's witty enough to stay just half a step ahead of it. Great movie. Great movie. Very underrated. This is a school movie for me. You guys heard me use that one a lot. Movies that I watched as a kid in school growing up. Every Friday, the teacher would bring out, they would, have the TV and the VCRs on the carts, and they roll them into the classroom and put on a movie. Especially if the class was good that week and they did everything they were supposed to do. Very little disturbance as far as behavior. We got Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington in Philadelphia. Fantastic movie. This movie came out right around when the AIDS became an epidemic, when it started getting bad. So this movie had perfect timing because a lot of people was getting discriminated against for having AIDS. AIDS was a new thing and people was very fearful of it. There wasn't a lot of information or education about AIDS back then. But AIDS has become not really a death sentence anymore. Nobody wants it, but it's not what it used to be. Fantastic movie. Another banger. This is A-tier Denzel. A-tier. Denzel Washington teams up with Tony Scott again. And he got Dakota Fan. Is that Dakota? No. Wait a minute. I think that is Dakota Fanning. There's a little girl. Yeah, that's her. Man on Fire. Fantastic movie. Again, this one, a lot of great quotes. One of my favorite quotes in this movie. It was a lot of good ones. This movie was a quote machine. You had two that really stood out. When you had Denzel in the apartment with the old people, with the RPG right before he took out that car and he was talking to the old people. That was a banger. And the scene where Christopher Walken was in the police station talking to their lead detective and telling them about how Chrissy is an artist and death is his masterpiece and death is his canvas. Fantastic movie. Great quotes, great lines. I love a movie with great quotes, great lines. I love a highly quotable movie, and there's a lot of movies out there with some great lines and quotes. And that's one of them. The Great Debaters. This is standard Denzel fare. What I mean by that is this is a thinking person's movie. And it's a very entertaining, uplifting movie. A+ tier. If there's such a thing as A+. But anyway, just joking aside. A tier. The Hurricane. Man, let me tell you. This is the type of role that Denzel showcases him. This is a showcase for Denzel. This, Malcolm X, certain movies, a lot of his movies are great and they show his range, but this really shows his depth, like how he do that Denzel thing. You know what I'm saying? The Denzel thing, we'll call it. The Hurricane. This movie is based on a true story about a boxer named Reuben Carter who was set up and framed by the police and sent to prison for a very long time. And at the end, he was with the help of some Canadians, he got out. The Inside Man, Clive Owen. I wasn't really feeling this one. I didn't like, and it wasn't Denzel's fault, or I don't think it was Clive. It wasn't Clive Owen's fault. Jodie Foster was in this one too. It was too much star power for this movie to be as just blah as it was, because it was just blah. This is, for Denzel movies, this is C tier. Didn't care too much for that one at all. This is a very early Denzel movie. Very, very early. Very early. License to Kill. This was a solid movie. It was a very early Denzel movie. A lot of people probably don't know about this one. Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg, Two Guns. This movie was just okay to me. This is, from me personally, I put this in C tier. The Book of Eli. This is A tier. This is Gary Oldman, Denzel Washington. Great cast in this movie. Great story. The idea, the premise. A blind man trying to take the last remaining Bible that was in his head to get it published and printed. Fantastic. This is A tier. Devil in the Blue Dress. Equalizer 2. I'm going to go B tier. I thought this one was okay. The first one was better. I got 3 coming. I didn't see 3 yet. I got that one coming. I really haven't been going to the theaters a lot because I collect so much. I always got stuff to watch. It'll take something big to get me into the theater right now. Let's see. The last theater experience I had was me and my son went to go see Transformers Rise of the Beast, which was pretty good. Anyway, the Equalizer, the first Equalizer, this is A tier. This is A tier Denzel. This is, man, you know, wow. Flight. And, you know, a lot of people dismissed this movie. Nobody said it was a bad movie, but just some people dismissed it. This is a really good movie. If you watch this movie, and to be honest with you, just for the ending where he's standing before the committee and he's basically on trial, and the looks that he was making, just pay attention to his facial expressions during that hearing. How his eyes was watering, the snot and everything was just, he was feeling the fire during that investigation, during that hearing, and how he copped to drinking the vodka, the way he did it. Whew, man, you got to watch that. This is A tier to me, because the movie itself was a good movie, but Denzel made this movie A tier. His acting is just... Denzel could take an okay movie where if they had somebody other than him in the movie, it still would have been an okay movie, but he will elevate it to a good movie or a great movie. And that's what a great actor does. They can take a script that somebody could have made a good movie and they can step in and make it a great movie. Glory. Very early Denzel movie. Here's another one for me that's just C tier. Safe House. B tier, The Magnificent Seven. This is a remake. This is a pretty good movie. This is a team up with, again, this is, you know, a lot of actors have their favorite director that they always work with, you know, or they work with a lot, like De Niro works with Scorsese a lot. Sam Jackson worked with Tarantino a lot. And Denzel Washington works with Antoine Fuqua a lot. And this was one of their movies. I think this might have been their second or third outing. They got another movie getting ready to come up. They're getting ready to do a Hannibal movie. But anyway, this is definitely a team up with Antoine Fuqua and Denzel Washington. And this this didn't do all that great in the box office. This is, I think, their weakest performance together as a director and actor team up. But it was still a decent movie. I dug this movie, and it's a strong B tier movie, definitely. I think Denzel did a great job with this movie. Denzel really didn't want to do the movie because it was a race swap. He really didn't want to do it, but I'm glad he did it because he did a pretty good job in the movie. Would that movie have done better in the box office if it had a different lead? It being a Western movie, probably. And I'm not saying that people who didn't want to see this was racist in any way. I'm not saying that. But it's a Western movie. Denzel did a good job in the role, no doubt about that. But could it have done better if you had somebody different in the lead? Who knows? Maybe a Ben Affleck or somebody, a Matt Damon. Even though I don't really see... Matt Damon don't stink of Western to me. You would have probably had to get somebody else. Maybe a Viggo Mortensen, perhaps. Anyway, the number one... Well, I'm going to save this for last because I think that's the best one. Here's another good one. Now, this isn't really a Denzel movie, He has a role in it. It's very early. It's still early in his career. This is a Howard Rollins movie, but you got a great cast in here. A very good cast in this movie, and it's a soldier story. It's basically a murder mystery on a U.S. military base back in the segregated U.S. military. This movie was good. Again, not a Denzel movie. It's more of a Howard Rollins movie, but Denzel was in this movie, and he still get pretty good credit for this movie, especially since Howard Rollins is no longer with us. Here's one that a lot of people liked, and I just said it was okay. A lot of people, oh man, what do you mean? It was just okay. To me, it was just okay. Unstoppable with Chris Pine and Denzel Washington. I thought it was okay. It's watchable. Very watchable. Here's one, again, to me, this is a remake, and I did not see the original, but Denzel Washington and John Travolta, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, it was all right. Again, all of these are watchable, but some are just standouts. And here's a Denzel triple pack, and all three of these are fire. All of them. Training Day, John Q, The Pelican Brief. The weaker being The Pelican Brief. I mean, it was a good movie, no doubt about it, but the weaker of these three. So that's Training Day, John Q, and The Pelican Brief. All three great movies. And we already know which one I didn't call out. So this is, to me, Denzel's finest work. And we're talking Malcolm X. Most definitely this and what was his kid? And Alonzo from Training Day are his two highest rated performances, I do believe. And I would say they are his best performances. And what makes these performances so hot, in my opinion, they are two totally different ends of the spectrum. One man is for the people, for doing right by the people, and the other one is about being wrong and doing wrong by the people. Fantastic movie, I'm trying to tell you. Malcolm X, man. I remember going to go see this in the theaters. It was surreal. Great movie. I was real young when this came out too. So let's go ahead and recap everything, and then we'll go ahead and we'll talk about where Denzel sit in the hierarchy. Malcolm X, Training Day, John Q, The Pelican Brief, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. Oh, you know what? I forgot one. How could I forget this? Ricochet. This was with John Lithgow. This movie was banging. How could I forget this? You know, my software didn't show me this when I pulled Denzel's filmography, but I know for a fact that I have it, so because I'm showing it to you. Anyway, yeah. Ice-T, John Lithgow, and Denzel Washington. Ricochet. Almost left this one out. I gotta update my software for that one. Unstoppable. A Soldier Story. The Magnificent Seven. Glory. Flight. The Equalizer. The Equalizer 2. Devil in a Blue Dress. Safe House. The Book of Eli. Two Guns. License to Kill. The Inside Man. The Hurricane. The Great Debaters. Man on Fire. Philadelphia. Out of Time. The Manchurian Candidate. The Siege. Fallen. Deja Vu. Crimson Tide, Courage Under Fire, The Bone Collector, Antoine Fisher, American Gangster, and Ricochet. So that's everything I got from Denzel Washington. And I'm going to say, well, I'm not even going to do the tier. I'm going to do the tier. When this series is over, I'll do the tier. So I'm just going to put Denzel Washington in on the tier list. And I'm going to put him at number 1 so far. Yeah, so far. Anywho, that's everything from Denzel Washington. Next up, in a few minutes, I'm going to go ahead and do Jason Statham. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.